This is a gripping story about Harry, a father whose world is shattered when his wife and daughter are brutally murdered. Struggling with his pain and guilt, Harry can't let go of the tragedy. He becomes obsessed with finding and punishing the man responsible. As Harry dives deeper into the dark side of revenge, he faces difficult choices and moral struggles. His quest for justice leads him down a dangerous path, making him question whether revenge will bring him peace or destroy him completely. The movie opens with an intense armed robbery. A group of robbers traps several men and coldly shoots them one by one. After the shooting, one of the robbers grabs a briefcase, and they all escape in a van. The story then shifts to Harry, who is in his room. He looks deeply disturbed, as if something terrible from his past is haunting him. While sitting in this unsettling silence, Harry receives a letter in the mail. When he opens it, he sees the words "Nothing to report," written by a man named Henderson. This message makes Harry even more upset. In his frustration, Harry pulls out a stool from under his bed. Attached to one of its legs is a knife, hinting that he might be thinking of ending his life. But just as he seems ready to do something drastic, he suddenly stops. Instead of going through with it, Harry leaves the room and sits by the window. He looks out at a woman sitting alone on a bench, watching her quietly. After watching the woman from the window, Harry goes downstairs to the kitchen. There, a woman named Emma is busy working, but Harry doesn't say a word to her. Instead, he silently cooks his own meal and eats without interacting. Emma notices him but hesitates. She brings a cup of tea for him but, for some reason, stops midway and returns to her work without saying anything. Later, Harry heads to a nearby church, where he begins cleaning. While working, he notices a group of people gathered inside. Among them, he sees a woman crying. Curious, he watches her, but when the others notice him standing there, they quickly close the door, shutting him out. At some point, Harry sits in one of the church chairs and drifts off to sleep. In his dream, he sees a man holding a gun, aiming right at him. The man shoots, and Harry wakes up with a jolt, horrified by the vivid nightmare. This scene shows how deeply troubled Harry is, haunted not just by his past but also by these terrifying visions. After his nightmare, Harry attempts to end his life again, this time by standing on the edge of the first floor of the church, ready to jump. As he prepares to take the leap, a powerful flashback floods his mind. He remembers his wife and daughter, alive and happy at home. In the memory, Harry is on the phone when his wife and daughter step out to cross the road. Suddenly, a van speeds toward them and hits them, killing them instantly. Harry rushes toward their lifeless bodies, overwhelmed with shock and grief. As he reaches the scene, he spots the men inside the van, the same robbers from the armed robbery at the beginning of the movie. They quickly try to flee, leaving Harry shattered by both his personal loss and the fact that the killers got away. This flashback reveals the deep trauma that has been haunting Harry and driving him toward revenge. Back in the present, Harry returns to his room and finds another letter in the mail. This time, Henderson has sent him some important news. The letter says that Henderson has information about the man responsible for the van that killed Harry's wife and daughter, and he asks Harry to meet him. Without hesitation, Harry heads to a cafe to meet Henderson. During their meeting, Henderson shares crucial details about the robbers and the van. He tells Harry where they are hiding and explains that they own a pub where they also run a shady business. Harry thanks him and sets out for the pub. At the pub, Harry orders a beer and quietly waits for the right moment to act. When the bartender steps away, Harry sneaks to the back of the pub. There, he overhears the robbers discussing their illegal activities. He spots one of the men and listens closely to their conversation, confirming that these are the people he has been looking for. Determined to find out more, Harry hides inside their van as they leave the pub. The van takes off, and Harry silently travels with them, heading toward an unknown location. At the unknown location, Harry spots two more robbers and immediately recognizes them as part of the gang responsible for his family's death. He quietly listens to their conversation and watches as they lead three men to the rooftop, tying them up. The robbers force one of the men to shoot the other two, but when he refuses, they coldly murder the other two victims themselves. Witnessing this brutal execution terrifies Harry. Realizing how dangerous these men are, he panics and runs downstairs, trying to stay unnoticed. He pulls up his hood to hide his face and finds a safe spot to observe. Moments later, one of the robbers walks out of the building, crying for his dead companions. Harry watches in silence, shaken by the violence and unsure of what to do next, but he knows he can't back down from his plan for revenge. After witnessing the horrifying murders, Harry returns home. Still determined to get revenge, he takes his late wife's wedding ring and goes to a jeweler. There, he sells the ring and gets a good amount of money in return. With the cash in hand, Harry meets the woman we saw earlier sitting on the bench. He gives her the money and asks for something in return, though it's unclear what at first. The next day, the woman hands Harry a box. He takes it back to his room and opens it to find a revolver and some bullets inside. Harry is now armed and ready to carry out his plan. He pushes his mattress against the wall and begins practicing, loading the revolver and firing at the mattress, all while imagining the faces of the robbers who destroyed his life. After preparing himself mentally and physically, Harry starts exercising and focuses on getting ready for his mission of revenge. Before leaving, he says a prayer, seeking strength for what lies ahead. Determined, Harry heads back to the same location he visited earlier and waits for the right moment when the men leave. Once inside the building, armed with his revolver, Harry carefully looks around and finds some drugs stashed away. While he's distracted by the discovery, one of the robbers, named Mark, walks in. Harry quickly points the gun at him, but his hands tremble, causing him to miss his shot. Mark seizes the opportunity, dashes into the room, and attacks Harry. In the struggle, Harry drops his gun, and a brutal fight breaks out between the two. Mark manages to stab Harry multiple times in the arm, leaving him wounded. Despite the pain, Harry fights back, eventually grabbing his gun and shooting Mark, who collapses, groaning in agony. Seizing the moment, Harry confronts Mark, reminding him of the tragic incident that took his wife and daughter. Desperate for answers, Harry demands to know where the other robbers are. Mark, in pain, reveals that they are heading to the countryside to deliver drugs. Harry forces him to write down the address. As Harry lets his guard down for a moment, Mark attempts to launch another attack with a knife, but Harry shoots him again, stopping him in his tracks. In his final moments, Mark insults Harry's wife and daughter, using vulgar language to provoke him. Overcome with rage, Harry loses control and beats Mark to death, releasing all his pent-up anger and grief. After realizing that he has just killed someone, Harry is overcome with guilt and considers ending his own life. But as he stands on the edge of despair, his thoughts turn back to his unfinished mission of revenge. Determined not to give up yet, he decides to carry on. The next morning, Harry goes to the kitchen and runs into Emma. For the first time, they have a brief conversation, and Emma opens up about her husband, who passed away. There's a sense of shared sadness between them, and soon, they both begin to feel an unspoken attraction. However, before things can escalate, Harry pulls back, apologizes, and leaves the room. The following day, still feeling awkward about the moment, Harry apologizes to Emma again. He then asks for a day off from work, clearly needing time to gather himself before continuing his quest for revenge. After taking some gear and his gun, Harry heads out to the countryside, determined to finish what he started. Once he arrives, he sees a private plane land nearby, and a man steps out, greeted by two of the robbers. They hand him a bag full of drugs, and after a quick exchange, the man gets back in the plane and takes off. Harry realizes that something much bigger is happening than he initially thought. With a surge of adrenaline, he loads his gun and carefully approaches the scene. Finally ready to act, Harry takes a deep breath and fires at the two robbers, hitting them both. The sound of gunfire brings two more men, Mickey and Emil, out of hiding. In the chaos, Emil manages to stab Harry with a knife, causing him pain, but Harry quickly retaliates, shooting both Mickey and Emil. As the situation escalates, the remaining robbers make a desperate escape in their van, leaving Harry in the dust. As the adrenaline fades, Harry suddenly has a flashback of his wife, overwhelmed by memories of happier times. The pain of his loss hits him hard, and he falls to his knees, consumed by grief. In that moment of vulnerability, one of the robbers he thought he had shot earlier slowly gets back up and approaches him, ready to attack. Realizing the danger, Harry quickly reacts, shooting the robber once more before he can reach him. With a mix of relief and exhaustion, he makes his way back home, knowing he needs to tend to his wounds. At the medical store, Harry meets a doctor who helps him patch up his injuries. The doctor carefully stitches his wounds and administers some shots to prevent infection. Meanwhile, Mickey and Emil return to the scene only to discover that everyone is dead. Shocked and enraged, they realize the gravity of what has happened. They head back to the city, only to find Mark's lifeless body as well. As they prepare to remove his body, they stumble upon a receipt from a jewelry store, clearly marked with Harry's name and address. Realizing that Harry is linked to the chaos, Mickey and Emil decide to track him down. They go to the jewelry store and confront the owner, using intimidation tactics to extract information. They threaten him, demanding to know everything he knows about Harry and his recent activities. Back at work, Harry runs into Emma, who shares that she's going on vacation for her birthday. She invites him to join her and hands him the address, making Harry feel a mix of excitement and distraction from his troubles. Just as Emma leaves, Harry is suddenly confronted by Mickey and Emil, who have tracked him down. They point their guns at him, but in a moment of desperation, Harry bites Emil's arm and makes a break for it, running back to his room. He grabs his gun, ready to defend himself, but Emil catches up and brutally beats him, throwing him off the first floor. Miraculously, Harry survives the fall and manages to flee the church, locking Mickey and Emil inside. While trapped, the two robbers start going through Harry's belongings, searching for clues. They come across one of Henderson's letters, which could lead them to Harry's next move. Meanwhile, Harry frantically tries to reach Henderson for help, but he can't get in touch. As he struggles to find answers, we cut to Emil and Mickey, who have captured Henderson. They've poured petrol all over him, creating a terrifying scene. They demand to know where Harry is hiding. When Henderson lies, trying to protect Harry, Emil and Mickey don't hesitate. In a brutal display of their desperation, they pour the petrol all over him and shoot him, leaving him dead. Then, Harry goes to his parents' place and meets his sister Christy. Christy bandages his wounds and asks him to go to a hospital. Harry tells her that he has found all of the killers and asks Christy to leave him alone for a few days. After days, Christy leaves the place. Harry heads over to his wife's and daughter's grave. As he is sitting there, he meets his father and informs him about the situation. He hands him over his gun and some bullets and tells him to get ready for what's coming his way. Soon after this, Harry wears his suit and loads his gun, waiting for the robbers to come for him. Mickey and Emil find his location and bring another one of their men along with them. They begin searching his home but do not find him anywhere. Then, they decide to check the barn and Emil stays back at home. As he is sitting there, he notices some blood coming out of his nose. When he turns around, he sees Harry standing at the back with his gun. Harry shoots him once, but when Emil tries to reach out to his gun, Harry shoots him again and kills him. Then, Harry heads to the barn and finds Mickey. They get into a fight, and Harry drops his gun. He reaches out for a knife nearby and stabs Mickey. Mickey tries to escape, but during this, a can of petrol gets spilled all over them. Then, Harry pushes Mickey into the fire, which kills him. As Harry thinks it is all over, he turns around to find another one of their men with a gun pointed at him. Harry tells him it's all over and he should go back home. The man listens to him and runs away. After this, Harry heads back home and plays his favorite music. He has a flashback of his wife and his daughter and decides to head to their grave. After some time, Harry falls to the ground in a miserable state. The scene shifts, and we see Emma at the beach waiting for Harry. Suddenly, Harry arrives there and joins her celebration. This is where the movie ends. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing recaps.